So you found your tribe on TikTok. Did you engage with this tribe, or did you consume the content and start the business? Can you kind of walk us through what that looked like for you?
Sure, sure. So 2.5 years ago, I was laid off from what I say will be my last corporate job.
Hmm.
And oh my goodness, I, hindsight is 2020. I was so burned out. There's a term, ADHD burnout. And I always believed in it. And when people said they had it, I believed it and I knew it was a real thing, but I had not experienced it until I had to stop masking all day long. And I just went through something where I was exhausted and I was looking for another job, and people in my life kept encouraging me to do social media. And I had thought about it for a long time, but as you know, you could say in a post, the sky is blue, and a future employer could see that and say, oh no, we don't want her. She doesn't see the sky as pink. We need it to be pink, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that was but now, at that point, I thought, what the heck? I'm not going back to a corporation ever again in the capacity I was. So I did some research and I got some friends to help me set things up. And I started Not Ruthless on Instagram. And it has been challenging and fun and rewarding and exciting. And like I said, I'm working on my book and I have another project that I'm doing. So having my own business has allowed me to let my creativity run free.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Ruth Danoff with us. Ruth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Kesi. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Ruth, can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and who you serve?
I am a neurodivergent woman who was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 50. So lots to unpack there still. And I serve women like me, women who have been diagnosed late in life and don't know where to turn. I have an Instagram channel underscore not ruthless. And my website is www.notruthless.com. And you can book calls with me there where I can help you figure out everything that's going on in your brain after the diagnosis. It is a lot. And I don't want any woman to go through what I went through. That is
Uh,
my goal.
awesome. Well, thank you for starting out strong. Let me ask you, how did you know that there was something going on?
It's funny. I'm also in the process of writing a book, and that chapter was a little tough for me because I didn't really know specifically that there was something going on. It wasn't like I sought out. I was having a conversation with my boss at the time, and there was somebody else in the room, and we were just chatting. And the other person has a psychology background, and she said to me, have you ever thought about getting tested for ADHD? And that was the first time I ever heard that. So I said no. And then in my next therapy session, I talked to my therapist about it, and she said, yes, let's test you. And so we did. And lo and behold, I was a beautiful, big brained person. And then it was time to figure out what to do with it all.
So, what does the ADHD mean? So, when they say you have ADHD, what exactly does that look like?
It looks different for every person. There's commonalities in people, but not everybody has the same comorbidities. Some of the things that I struggle with are big time on this one: body temperature dysregulation. I have always been hot ever since I was a little girl. I remember as a teenager in the house turning the thermostat down, and my dad yelling at me saying, "You're not paying the electricity bill." And so that's a strong one. I also deal with um, flashes of anger and emotional dysregulation. Um, and that's a tough one to control, because in certain situations, a neurodiverse person will go off and have absolutely no control over it. I think that's the biggest thing I want neurotypical people to understand is some of the behaviors you see in a neurodivergent person, we just don't have control over. It's how our brain is wired. So the best you can do is love yourself through it, acknowledge it, and either on your own or with help from somebody else, try and figure out ways to help yourself through it.
And what does that look like in business? So, how did she recognize that you may be someone that has ADHD to even say, hey, have you thought about getting tested?
She had seen my temper, which I struggle with to this day. And she had seen, I previously had, I guess, up until, geez, 2 years ago, I have struggled with sleep since I was a little girl. And so I was always yawning and coming in tired, even when I thought I had a full night of sleep. Um, and just, I guess, observing different interactions with people. I never really went back and asked her that question, and I kind of wish I had, but it's moot at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. And when you are helping other women go through the whole process, what exactly does that look like for someone if they were to call you now? What would that process entail?
Well, I have packets or choices on my website of different topics that they might want to focus on, but mostly they just want to tell their story and have an empathetic and compassionate ear to listen. Because when you get your diagnosis, you're very confused. Your family is not going to be the first one to understand, because they've always known you in the way that you were before your diagnosis. And once you get your diagnosis, hopefully you start to become more of who you really are. And that is a journey. Um, so I
Okay.
hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. I am trying to think about in business, you're an entrepreneur and you are maybe struggling in some ways that you don't even know. right?
Right.
What are some identifiers, maybe in business, outside of maybe outside of rage or your temper, that they can use to kind of maybe identify that maybe, you know
I
what?
have a
Yeah, go ahead.
hyperfocus. So again, I can only tell my story. Um, when I am hyper focused on a project, and this was when I worked in an office, and somebody would interrupt me, it's like somebody walking up to you and yelling boo, and you get really scared and startled. Like we startle easily because when we're in hyper focus, nothing is seen or heard around us. We're so
Wow.
focused on what we're doing. So that was a challenge for me a lot when I was in an office. And another challenge for me was, this is all before I started my business, which I now no longer, thank goodness, have to deal with these triggers. Um, if somebody who's neurodiverse is not interested in a topic, they're not going to pay attention. They're going to lose interest immediately. And boy, that was a struggle for me throughout my previous career. I was always an administrative professional, so I had to sit in on a lot of meetings and execute. And I got so bored so quickly. It was, and I'm sure other neurodivergent people out there are going to totally understand this. It is painful to sit in a meeting when you have no interest in what's going on. It's not just like, oh, let me twiddle on my thumbs and et cetera, et cetera. Inside, you are literally like having to hold yourself down because you want to get out of there so badly.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
There,
Oh,
our emotions are extreme. We have, when we have emotions, they're really big.
mhm.
And that is a huge challenge for people who don't understand our big, beautiful brains.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. So, okay, now you've gotten this diagnosis. You now know, okay, this is who I am, or this is who they say I am. What did that transition look like? Then you just decided, you know what, I'm gonna start my own business. Like, take us through that journey. What does that look like?
So I got my diagnosis 15 years ago. So it's been a while. And interestingly enough, I was living in Maryland at the time, and I didn't really do anything with it. I mean, I had to start seeing a psychiatrist to get my medication. That's every 3 months just for a med check. And I did, I don't know why, but I never really researched it right after my diagnosis. I shortly thereafter moved to North Carolina, and somehow I discovered TikTok, and I found my people. I mean, I learned all about my ADHD on social media.
Wow.
So, and then I started doing my own research and just hyper focused on that. Um, and I am very fortunate that I am on the Community Advisory Council for the Duke Center for Girls and Women with ADHD. So that has helped me a lot too to give back.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And then, so you found your tribe on TikTok. Did you engage with this tribe, or did you consume the content and start the business? Can you kind of walk us through what that looked like for you?
Sure, sure. So 2.5 years ago, I was laid off from what I say will be my last corporate job.
Mm,
And oh my goodness, I, hindsight is 2020. I was so burned out. There's a term, ADHD burnout. And I always believed in it. And when people said they had it, I believed it and I knew it was a real thing, but I had not experienced it until I had to stop masking all day long.
mm,
And I just went through something where I was exhausted and I was looking for another job, and people in my life kept encouraging me to do social media. And I had thought about it for a long time, but as you know, you could say in a post, the sky is blue, and a future employer could see that and say, "Oh no, we don't want her. She doesn't see the sky as pink. We need it to be pink." You know?
mhm.
So that was what, but now at that point I thought, what the heck? I'm not going back to a corporation ever again in the capacity I was. So I did some research and I got some friends to help me set things up. And I started Not Ruthless on Instagram. And it has been challenging and fun and rewarding and exciting. And like I said, I'm working on my book and I have another project that I'm doing. So having my own business has allowed me to let my creativity run free. And it's been a huge blessing. I am so grateful that I was laid off.
Oh, I'm loving that you went into all of that. The fact that you said it was a blessing, the fact that you took the risk on yourself. If you had to go back in time and give your past self some advice, what would that advice be?
I would say, and this is another struggle that is typical with neurodivergence, and I really have always had a hard time with is patience. And even though I know I'll talk to myself and say, it's okay, it's only been a day, they will get back to you. I get anxious and am wondering why I'm not hearing back. And that is a struggle that a lot of us have to deal with, is just to sit with our feelings. So here we go, Kesi. Prime example. I already forgot what we were talking about. Please remind me because I went off on a tangent and I need to be brought back to center.
And you know what? That's
That's
a-okay.
real.
It's real life, and I love that. It's real. Okay, so I was saying if you had to go and give yourself some advice, what advice would
Right.
that be?
It would be to do your best to be patient, because out of patience comes great rewards. Give yourself plenty of grace.
Mhm.
Things are not as pronounced as they feel, and love yourself.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And I think overall, in just in general, we don't love ourselves enough and give ourselves grace enough.
Yes,
It's
that is
always
so
a
true.
struggle.
And I, over the last 2.5 years since I was laid off, have gone through a spiritual awakening. And so I have been on that path tandem to building my business. And it's been an interesting time, and I wouldn't change a thing, not even the darkness that I went through and the pain of dealing with things that I'd never dealt with. It has been amazing.
So I was we were having a great conversation. We had to pause the recording for a second. We were having some technical difficulties there, but in the break, we were talking about, just having better tests done in order to be able to identify, um, when you're going through perimenopause, you know,
Right.
ADHD. So we were
It,
dead smack in the middle of that, guys.
yeah. Well, we were talking about how once you reach perimenopause and above, for women who are neurodiverse, your symptoms exacerbate.
Hmm.
And I was just getting my diagnosis around that time, and I wasn't really sure like what was happening.
Hmm.
So it's real. I lived through it. And I support more research being done on women who have been late diagnosed
Hmm.
and hormones.
Hmm.
It's very important to get that feedback and that information.
Hmm.
Something else we talked about on the break was food
Yes, 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 yes.
and chasing dopamine and what that means.
So,
Neurodivergent.
oh, go
Go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead, honey.
Yeah, you had said that you don't have that dopamine receptor.
Right. That is missing in neurodivergent people. So we are always chasing the dopamine, is the saying. So a lot of us do it, and I do it with food, which has always been a struggle for me my whole life, and sugar in particular, because chocolate, anything, all those things will give us dopamine. It's a short hit, um, and a lot of times then we crash, and that's not good. That's not a fun part.
Hmm.
Um, and I myself have started so many hobbies I could not even count. And the amount of money I've wasted on starting these hobbies, because when we start something, we hyper focus and we're like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is going to work. This is the idea. I'm going to sell 1 million of these. And then tomorrow morning, a week later, a month later, you will just literally wake up and have zero interest in that. And it goes by the wayside.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let me jump into that. Let me dive deep into that. How do you stay on task then?
It's hard. How do I stay on task? I've always been um, an organized person, and I will share with you that neurodivergent minds do better getting tasks done at the last minute because we will put it off and put it off and put it off. And then right before it's due, we will hyper focus and get it done.
Hmm.
And on the flip side, we will, and I just had several conversations recently with people who have experienced the same thing. There's a receipt that you need to submit to your insurance company that's been sitting on the kitchen counter for 3 months. It's going to take 5 minutes to complete that task. You cannot make yourself do it until you get to do it. No matter how many times you walk past the receipt, no matter how many times it irritates the heck out of you, we just put it off. And it's not procrastination, it's just something in our minds that will not allow us to do it in
Wow.
that moment. It's
Oh.
again, I'm not a clinician. I can't explain the the details, but in layman's terms, that's how it goes.
And do you have any systems in place that you find help?
I've tried a zillion systems, as have other people with ADHD. And I just find that if it's not in front of my face, if I can't see it, it's forgotten. So I don't use stickies all over the place, but I do keep several lists around the house, and I'll use my phone. I will put tasks that I need to do in a calendar entry for the next day. And if I don't complete it that day, then I'll just carry it over to the next.
So let me ask you an important question with that. Do you think AI and automation would help with some of that?
Oh, tremendously. For me personally, AI has helped in my writing because words do not come easily to me, even though it may seem like they're coming easily to me now. They really don't. And they're in my head, but I have a hard time getting them out. And that's just how it goes. So I can write in what I'm trying to say in my haphazard fashion, and it will put out my thoughts and my sentiments, but in a professionally written sentence or paragraph or whatever.
Oh, nice, nice.
And
And
and then I can just edit it as I need to. Because
Mhm.
sometimes it adds stuff that is not relevant
Right,
or is not true to you.
right.
But it has been a great help.